Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alton West. Today I will have guests on from the LaGrange Police Department. Also, I will have a guest on from my department, the Community Development Department. So stay tuned for those interviews coming up in just a moment. Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm sitting down with two of LaGrange's finest officers. I'm sitting down with, to my far left, Officer Ariel Ward and Officer Greg Silvers. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, you know, we had you guys on a while back, and you all were talking about court security, and I guess there's things that are still kind of coming in that you all would like the public to be aware of that don't need to be coming into our court. Is for the safety of not only you all, but everybody that's involved there.
Yes.
So we want to talk a little bit about that, but first of all, let's talk a little about you all's role as security officer. And Ariel, I'm going to jump over to you first, and then I'll start out with Greg there, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about you guys' role as a security officer there for the municipal court.
Okay, our role is for, like you said earlier, is for the safety for ourselves and for the customers that are coming into municipal court. Mm-hmm. And when people enter the courtroom, they are checked, their personal bags and things like that they are searching. People have to understand that we don't do this because we are trying to be bad guy, but that is a requirement in our day and time, and even in little old LaGrange. We have to make sure that the public is safe, and so we try to get that over to the people that we are doing it for their safety as well as our own.
Oh, okay, all right. And Greg, I know that you guys have been in this role now going on 3 years.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your day there at the municipal court.
Sometimes it could be people don't understand that, to concentrate on what we're doing and to be vigilant about what type of activities going on in there. We're very busy, and like I said, we're trying to make sure that they're safe, mm-hmm. the citizens are safe, the judge and the staff there, and we have a lot going on, and basically we try to get them in there as quick as we can, but we have to do a detailed search.
Absolutely.
And we're not trying to make anyone mad or whatever, but if we miss something, think about the catastrophe it could be.
That's right, that's right. And you talk about, you all are very busy, and you're trying to get people in because, number one, they're probably a little bit frustrated about the fact they got to come to court.
Exactly.
They may have had to take time off from work.
Yes.
Right. They may have children with them that they couldn't get anybody to keep. Let's just talk about that. Someone comes to court. I guess, and I'm thinking back to my days of policing too, I guess the first thing they perhaps need to do is check the attitude at the door. Is that fair to say, Ariel?
Yeah, correct, very correct. Check them at your door.
Okay. Now, time consumingness. Talk about some of the things that people can do to help themselves get in and expedite you checking them getting in, getting seated, and court can get started. Talk about things that they don't need to bring to court. And I'll just ask that to both you gentlemen.
The large bags, purses, you basically need whatever court paperwork you need, your ID, your money, or whatever. The less they have, the quicker we can get people in there.
Okay.
But if you have a large bag, it's going to take time. And you got the different compartments and everything, so mm-hmm. the less you bring with you, the quicker we can get you in. Especially if you have inclement weather and we don't have a covering or anything, it's cold or it's raining, but we still have to check it, so it's easy to just bring what you need.
Okay. Already, you want to add?
Yeah, just to add to what Greg said, just keep it at a minimum. Just bring the necessary things, because sometimes we have purses, large purses, this wide, and inside that large purse you have about 3, maybe 4 smaller purses, and all those things have to be checked. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And people get upset because we are going through their personal thing, but like I said, you have to understand you're coming into the courtroom, and that is a requirement of our job that we must check these things. Mm-hmm. Maybe later on down the road we will get one of the machines like the government center have with the x-ray machine that you can put on the slide and it'll come through and you can check it that way, but until then we have to manually check these items for them to come into the courtroom, and if you bring less, the quicker you can get it.
That's right. And it's a very good point Greg made about inclement weather. When it's raining, they got to stand there, or if it's cold, and so you got to stand there, and talking about standing there, I know that I look out the window sometime and I notice there's larger crowds over there at the municipal court than
Yes.
on Sundays. Talk about the days that you all have court and the times, if y'all don't mind. I'll just throw it out to both of you gentlemen.
Well, sometimes the court lists get a little long, and we start letting people in about 30 minutes before court actually start.
Okay.
So if we have court at 1:30, about 1 o'clock, we start allowing people to come in and get them searched. And most people are going to wait till the very last minute to get there.
No.
Oh yes, oh yes. If you get there at 1 o'clock, and if you minimize the thing that you're bringing in, the large purses, the large bags. Sometimes people have large book bags, and of course, and people get off from work and they have their work tools inside those bags, and those things are not allowed to come into the courtroom.
Okay.
And when you have a large bag, you're holding everybody else that's out in the rain, out in the heat, out in the cold. So keep it as minimum as you can, and we'll get you in, at a pretty good time.
Okay.
And to reiterate on that, also a thing that we require, and we ask this, and they be standing in line, and you continuously have to tell them, everything have to come out of your pockets. Everything. I mean, leave nothing in your pockets. They'll go through the scan, and it'll go off, and then when we ask them, did you take everything out of your pockets? They still have items in their pockets.
So just simple compliance sounds
Yes.
like it would help
Yes.
to expedite things as
Everything.
well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
nothing
everything.
in your pocket.
Well, let's talk about that now. And I know that you gentlemen were telling me that before we came on, you still find contraband, you still find weapons.
Yes.
And people know that they're coming to a government building.
And you're going to be
You
checked.
got two officers there, and I don't want to get in a tussle with either one of you guys, because you're pretty big gentlemen there. And you also got the metal detector. Talk about some of the things that you all find when they come through.
Large knives, pointed instruments, work tools, like you were saying, that they're using.
That all could be used as weapons, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And lately, mace on keychains.
Okay.
I mean, you can't bring that in there.
Okay. Just common sense things there again, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. What do y'all find? What do y'all do when you find things like that? If someone, like the mace incident there on the keychain, because a lot of times, like walkers, they go out and they may have the mace on the keychain. What do y'all do with stuff like that? Do y'all confiscate it? Do you give it back to them, or what happens with that stuff?
Well, they have an option.
Okay.
Take it back to your vehicle, or you have to throw it in the trash can there.
Okay. So you all will allow them to go back to their vehicle to take these items that
Yes.
you all found? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay.
We don't keep any of them. Like I said, the mace, the pointed weapons and things like that. Well, I just got off from work. I understand that, but these things are not allowed in our courtroom for just like it is. It's for security reasons, and people get highly upset. Now things like for child, little children, infant, you have your milk, your formula, and your juices. Now we will allow those things, and sometimes kids will bring toddlers to court, and they have candy bars or lollipops and things like that. We can't allow this into the courtroom because what we have found now that when people leave, they leave their trash behind, and we want to keep our courtroom as safe and as clean as we possibly can, at all times. It's just personal hygiene.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, because I was about to go there and you talked about food for babies and stuff like that. Let's say someone was there that may be, diabetic or whatever, have a medical reason that they need to bring a food item, because court sometimes can stretch out to be kind of lengthy.
Yes.
Would you all allow them, if they have medical documentation, that they need to have something to eat at certain times?
Sure.
And that's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Especially they'll tell us, or they'll show us. You can see that they have their insulin and this and that, and they have to have a candy bar or whatever just in case. And
Okay.
And what we ask, if you gotta use that item, would you just step out with it, and we'll let them.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Ariel, you brought up another point I wanted to kind of ask about. Someone bringing small children to court. Or I've been over there sometimes. It seems like people bring an entourage with them for whatever reason. I don't know. Talk about how do you all deal with that?
Wow, I wish they would leave their entourage at home because it causes a problem. And when you bring 6, 7, 8 people with you, that takes up a lot of seating for people to actually have on the court calendar for that day. And small children, people have to use common sense. You know, 1 or 2-year-old not going to sit still for 3, 4 hours. Right. They're going to start crying and they're going to start wanting to get up and run, and we can't allow that to happen in court either. A lot of time, and just being honest with you, Alton, people bring small babies to court with them. They think it's going to keep them from going to jail. But we ask them, you either make arrangement for a family member or a friend to come and get your child, or we will call defects. Because we're not going to babysit. And that's happened a lot when people bring the knives and the maids to, well, can you hold this child? Come back. No, no, we can't. We're not going to be responsible for you. So if they get broken, they get missing, then you're going to want to hold us accountable for it, and we can't do that.
Think about trying to keep up with someone else's items, and everybody wants you to hold it and this and that, the time that it would take.
And I, as I stated earlier, I look out sometime and I do see the line, you know, out the door and kind of forming down the sidewalk there. So I'm going to assume you probably have somewhere in the neighborhood 100 plus individuals that are attending. Now they may all not be on the docket, but they're there.
Sometimes we'll have, like you said, maybe 100 offender on the calendar. So if you add the extra people coming, that just you know. That's just too much.
Overcrowds your
exactly.
And again, like you said, trying to get everybody in to get court started, and I'm sure the court kind of gets started even as you all are letting people come in. So bottom line is, it sounds like no food, no weapons. Leave children at home too, I think, in most cases, because it's not going to be a deterrent from the judge sentencing of you, right?
Exactly.
So bottom line, gentlemen, again, it's for the safety of everybody there involved. You know, we appreciate what you all do. I know it's a tough job. People sometimes, you know, don't realize, you know, the complexity of what you all do is, but it all is for a purpose.
That's right.
And I do appreciate you all, and Sergeant Armstrong too, I think, is the supervisor over the court system there, and because it's for protection not only for the judge, for the staff, and for you all as well. And I thank you all both for what you do in our community. You know, police with both of you gentlemen when I was down in the PD years ago. Thank you all for being on the show today and sharing this information.
All right, appreciate it.
All right.
Ladies
and gentlemen, stay tuned for more City Week coming up in just a moment.
Nobody wants to be stopped by a law enforcement officer.
Everyone wants to feel safe.
So we've trained our officers to first listen and then explain.
We ask if you have contact with one of our officers, you listen, give him an opportunity to explain, comply with his requests, and if there's a problem, contact us so that we can investigate your complaint.
Listen, explain, comply, then complain.
Our safety and yours matters.
Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm being joined by a gentleman from my department down at Community Development, Senior Inspector Glenn Conward. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, Glenn, you know, you've been with us now about 3 years, and I'm just going to say this here on camera. I've been very, very impressed with the quality of your work, with your dedication to work. I think I came in on a Saturday one day, and I was frightened a little bit because I saw a door open, and who pops out? You.
Yeah.
But I know it takes sometimes. It takes that that quiet time to get things done, because you know, when you're in the motion of the day, the phone, walk-ins, and plan reviews and things of that nature, it gets a little hectic, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Very hectic.
Very hectic.
Sometimes quiet time you can accomplish more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you were telling me that you were able to accomplish in those 2 or 3 hours what you normally would take 4 hours, right?
That's correct.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glenn, tell us a little bit about your role, if you don't mind, as senior inspector.
Senior inspector encompasses doing inspections on residential, commercial, on new construction, unsafe housing, getting that taken care of, sign ordinance, putting out variant signs for things that are going before the council, just pretty much everything that community development does.
You wearing many hats right now, aren't you,
Yes,
Glenn?
sir. Yes, sir. As well as you.
That's right. Let's talk about, you know, Glenn, you hit on talking about, you know, residential and commercial. And back in March, you made an accomplishment, a milestone. You received your commercial inspector certification. Talk about that, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. That was one of the toughest tests I've ever had to take. I went to the class, the week-long class, and then to prepare for the test, I did 12 3.5-hour practice tests, and then went to Stockbridge and took the test. And I'm so glad to be a commercial inspector now, because I know it definitely helps the city. Absolutely,
absolutely. And also, before that, you were already residentially certified, and doing a great job in that role. And I'm going to talk about something else here in a little bit, how the department has changed in a few moments there. But you started out with us as an unsafe inspector. Talk about the role as an unsafe housing inspector for us.
The unsafe was definitely new to me. I had been in construction all my life, and now dealing with dilapidated structures. And what we would do is we'd receive a complaint, and we'd go out and we'd look at the structure, take some photographs, and then we would come back, research, send a letter to the owner, try to make contact with them, try to get them to, you know, rehabilitate it or demolish it. And if that was unsuccessful, we would move forward with going to nuisance and abatement court at municipal court, and allow the judge to determine the fate of the structure.
Okay, all right. And then, you know, and I know that, you know, whenever you would go to court, you would always email me about the structure of the location that was going to court. And then people in the community sometimes would say, well, why has that house, you know, been boarded up such a long time? They have to understand, and you know it first-handedly, sometimes you have absentee owners. Sometimes you have landlords that are not willing to comply with the court order or whatever, and they do have to receive that due process. Talk about what you have seen the judge normally adjudicate against a home, the time frame.
You know, normally the judge, he gives, what I like about how he does is he gives each person the opportunity to get a permit to either demolish or rehabilitate, and in a certain amount of time to acquire the permits. And then if they do not rehabilitate or demolish, then he allows that time frame for the city to move upon it. And so they're given an opportunity even after court.
Absolutely.
To comply.
And I know that, you know, you brought to me some extensions. So if someone has gone in and made, you know, an attempt to rehabilitate the structure, but, you know, unforeseen circumstances, financially or whatever, we do extend those times.
Yes, we do. And if they're making progress and they're showing a really good effort toward it, or like you said, if they have sickness or financial, we do allow extensions. And the judge, we go to the judge and ask him and present, you know, what's been happening, what's going on, and then he'll grant the extension. Okay.
And I guess the other thing that we need the public to understand, and you well know it, and as I know, is not that we're just going after structures, but it's an appearance, it's a look that we, you know, a safety issue that we're trying to get the community and those property owners to understand. And it's an aesthetic look. Talk about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, curb appeal is definitely, you know, if you go up to a house and it's dilapidated, it's dragging down the neighborhood. And I have found squatters in the residence as we're doing our search searches on these properties. So you know, if the house is collapsing and there's somebody staying in there, you know, it's definitely an unsafe for the neighborhood.
That's right. And you're talking about squatters being in the homes. Not only is it unsafe for the community, but it's unsafe to that individual.
That's correct.
You know, that has taken up residence.
That's
there.
correct.
And a lot of times, you know, we find out when those properties are dilapidated, they go in there, and especially during the cold season, they may start fires or various things. The next thing you know, we got a fire on our hands.
That's correct.
You know, and moving to a lighter note now, Glenn, I know that, you know, you and I have been working very close here recently together. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But let's talk on a lighter note, the Downtown Hotel. I know that you've been in there and I've been in there talking about that. You know, there's a lot of energy going on. Talk a little bit about that.
You know, I think the hotel is definitely going to be a great asset for the downtown area, and it looks wonderful too. I mean, they did a really good job matching what the city's theme is, I think. And it being across from the square, it has a wonderful view.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. You know, we had an opportunity to tour it a couple of weeks ago, and it was rainy day that day that when we went out, but we went up on the 4th floor of it and everything, and, you know, seen the work that they've done, and, you know, already sheetrocking the 3rd and the 4th floor of it, and then it's got more of your framework still down on the lower level, but you're right, it is an absolutely breathtaking view being up on that 4th floor.
That's great.
Some of that's just one of our commercial, and we have a number of industrial projects going on right now. Duracell out in the industrial park. Talk about that.
Duracell is doing some major expansion. Not only are they adding on to their current structure, but they have bought the structure next door and are getting ready to utilize it for manufacturing as well.
That's right. You know, I had Scott on last week, and he talked about the Duracell doing all of the AA batteries here now. 9-volt, I'm sorry, 9-volt batteries that they're going to be manufacturing here in our local plant here in LaGrange. You know, again, all of these things, job creations, you know, putting LaGrange more so on the map too. Caterpillar is another one we'll talk a little bit about. I know that we just reviewed some plans the other day.
That's correct. Yeah, they have cleared the land and they have begun grading. It's a several 100,000 square foot expansion for logistics, and which will complement the plant that we already have.
That's right.
And that's a major asset as well.
Absolutely, and that one is located over in our James Fryer. And we're so fortunate we have 3 industrial parks here. Most people may not realize that.
That's correct.
We got the Jim Hamilton, where the Duracell is Caterpillar is located. Then we got the older one, Lucan Industrial, and then we also have the Callaway South Industrial Park. So we have 3 industrial parks here in our community that can accommodate these large developments. Another one that I know that you have had an opportunity, Jindal. I know they're in the process too.
Yes, they're adding a major expansion as well. They make the films that go inside potato chip bags that keep the freshness of the potato chips.
Absolutely.
They're doubling their plant, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. And, you know, and all of these things, you know, you and I get opportunity to look at firsthand. We see the, you know, the design, we see the plans, we get a chance to talk with the developers of them and all those various things. I want to kind of shift gears just a little bit now, Glenn, and talking about that, because it's kind of been you and I here for the last week or so. As most people may realize, our department did suffer a loss a couple of weeks ago in the loss and passing of Mr. Bill Newman. Talk about your time working with Mr. Newman, if you don't mind.
Mr. Newman was a great mentor. He always treated everybody with respect, and he will be missed. He was definitely a major asset to the city of LaGrange.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, and I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Bill for 13 years.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And you know, he was very mild-mannered, very keen, and as you said, very professional and very fair with everybody. Who it was that came in there.
Everybody.
If he didn't have the answer, he said, "Let me look it up."
That's correct.
And he got back to you. You know, and the thing that, you know, Glenn, for us in the department, because we were already small, so we're definitely small now, you know, I just want the public to know that, you know, with all the things that we just named, Duracell, Caterpillar, Jindal, the Downtown Hotel, we didn't even talk about Great Wolf, and we know that's another large major project. But one of the things that we had put in place is the contract services of development site services. Talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
They're they do inspections and plans review for major projects, and they are actually doing the Great Wolf project full time. And with the loss of Mr. Bill, now they're going to help us with the major Caterpillar, Duracell, and Jindal projects, you know, until we can replace some folks on our team.
That's right, absolutely. You know, the thing about it, we do have a great team. Ed Davis, who was the building official for Coweta County for a number of years, and you know, I looked at his resume, and I think he has just about every certification under the sun.
Yes, he does.
And then Sammy Osborne, who worked also for Coweta County, and then West Point is a part of that team, and Leanne Green is a part of that team that is coming on board to help us to make sure that all these projects, and again, we just want to ensure the public that, you know, nothing will be left out. Everything is going to get an inspection as it should, and everything will be held to the same standards as they have been in the past. And you know, I thank you, Glenn, for being a part of that and for receiving your commercial inspection certification here in a timely manner.
Yes.
You know, and I know that there's some other things that you're going to be working towards, and I look forward to supporting you in that.
I appreciate it very much.
So at this point, I just say thank you for being on that team.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining City Week this week, and I'll be back in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining City Week this week. My guests have been from the LaGrange Police Department, had Officers Ariel Ward and Greg Sivers, the Municipal Court Security Officers, as they gave you a couple of hints about things that you can and cannot bring to the Municipal Court. It's all about your safety and the safety of the staff. So by all means, take those things to heed. Also, I had on from the Community Development Department, my Senior Inspector, Glenn Conroy, as he gave us a brief overview of some of the various projects that are taking place in and around our downtown area. And also, we paid a little bit of tribute to our building official, Mr. Bill Newman, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed these interviews, and as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.